Does the law separate us from Him? We've probably heard this idea in the past, that the law is not something that brings us closer to Him, that instead it's something that takes us away from Him. That if a person is focusing on the law, that this would necessarily mean that they are not focused on Him, that they are not focused on loving Him and seeking to love Him in the way that He's asked us. And on the one hand, this might make sense, depending upon how we have thought about the law in the past. Because if we've just considered the law as a list of things to do and things to not do, things that are more or less not meaningful and not significant, and we don't pay attention to the fact that He is the author of the law, that He is the one that commanded the law for His people, then we might not consider it as having any association with Him or having any association with being close to Him. And in addition to this, if we have just paid attention to certain commands of the law, if whenever we think about it, we just think about things that we would not have been inclined to do ourselves, and we don't think about or remember the other commands, the commands like loving Him with all of our heart, which is actually a command of the law that is stated in Deuteronomy 6:5, among numerous other places. The law itself commands to love Him with all of our heart and all of our being, and to serve Him with all of our heart. If we haven't paid attention to that or remembered that, then we might not think about the law having anything to do with loving Him and seeking out what He wants. But the fact is that this is an integral part of the law, that someone out there may consider some of the commands of the law, may be focused on a few of the commands, and may be focused on doing them while not believing or not caring anything about Him. That might be possible. There might be someone out there that does that. But the reality is, loving Him, serving Him, and fearing Him, and believing in Him is all a part of the law, and that no one out there is going to seek to follow His commandments diligently if they don't believe in Him, if they don't care about Him and care about loving Him in the way that He has commanded us. And actually, cleaving unto Him, being close to Him and clinging to Him is part of the commands of the law. The law actually commands that we are to guard His commandments, and in His voice you shall listen, and Him you shall serve, and in Him you shall cling. Seeking to be close to Him, seeking to cling to Him is a part of the law. That we are to guard all of this commandment, to do it, and that we are to love Him. We are to go in all of His ways, and to cling in Him. And what is associated with Him repeatedly, associated with fearing Him, associated with serving Him, is clinging in Him, is cleaving to Him, being close to Him. That He does not associate the law, the commandments that He gave us for our good, with separating from Him, but instead He associates it with being close to Him, with loving Him in all of our being. In the past, a person might have wanted to love Him in all of their heart, and to feel strongly toward Him, and to want to be close to Him, while at the same time not yet being open to accepting some of His commands, some of the commandments of His law, which He considers good and right in His sight, according to Deuteronomy 12:28. If a person is not open to some of His commandments, while at the same time they want to believe that they are loving Him with all of their heart, and yet wanting to do what is right in their own sight, it might make sense that a person would come to this sort of conclusion, or rather accept that type of assertion, that the law is something that separates us from him. If a person is not open to the fact that he commanded his law, and not open to accepting his commandments, then it would make sense that a person would find a way to feel okay with disobeying what he asked. And we have to be careful beyond just the sense of not wanting to follow parts of the law, therefore believing that it doesn't apply today in full, because it can also go the other way. We might believe something very strongly, believe it to be required, or believe it to be forbidden. We might have very strong beliefs about that, and therefore assume that the Creator has those same strong feelings toward those things. And as a result, we might add to the law with what is good and right in our sight. So instead of following after our own wisdom, the dictates of our heart, what is good and right in our own sight, we want to seek out what is good and right in His sight, what He has commanded to be good and right. We need to return to His ways, even though we have been told to not listen to His ways. This is indeed what we need to listen to. We need to listen to His voice. We need to return to Him and cling to Him. And we need to serve Him in all of our heart and in all of our being. Thanks for watching, and remember the commands. Shalom.